never saw it coming, honestly. Jamie and I had been together for almost 3 years and everything seemed perfect, or at least that's what I convinced myself. She was smart, beautiful, confident, sometimes bitchy, sure, but that's what I liked about her. We were planning our wedding and I thought we had this solid future ahead. We'd been through a lot, long nights, tough financial times, family drama, nothing could break us, right? Well, I guess I was wrong. The first sign something was off was little things. Jamie started acting distant a couple of weeks before the wedding. She'd cancel plans last minute, say she was tired or busy at work, but I could tell she was avoiding me. Then she started to get defensive whenever I asked about her phone or her whereabouts. Little things, she'd go to the bathroom, then come back looking guilty if I peeked at her screen. I brushed it off initially. I mean, she's a woman, she's entitled to her privacy. But the gut feeling was gnawing. One night I decided to check her phone. Not to invade her privacy, but because I was genuinely worried. I figured if she was hiding something, I had a right to know. I waited until she fell asleep, slipped out of bed and grabbed her phone from the nightstand. My heart was pounding as I unlocked it. She used a fingerprint, which I knew because I'd seen her register her thumb during one of those trust exercises she insisted we do. I hesitated, then unlocked it. What I found made my stomach drop. There were a bunch of texts between her and Chris, our mutual friend, the guy we always joked about being too friendly. At first, I thought maybe it was just friendly banter, but then I saw the messages escalate. Flirty comments, teasing, suggestive emojis. I saw plans to meet up soon, and her talking about how she needed a break from wedding stress. But what really struck me was the way she signed off some of those messages. Can't wait to see you later, sexy. I read the messages twice, then 3 times, just to make sure I was seeing right. The sickening feeling in my stomach was overwhelming. I felt betrayed, like she'd been lying to my face for weeks, even months. How could she do this? How could she cheat on me, especially right before our wedding? I'd never done anything to deserve this, and now it all felt like a huge, disgusting lie. The next day, I couldn't even look at her the same way. She acted normal, like everything was fine. Tried to brush it off, call me paranoid, say I was overreacting, but I knew better. I had the proof right there. I wanted to confront her, but I also wanted to catch her in the act. That's when I decided I'd wait for her to slip up. I couldn't just accuse her without solid proof, especially with how manipulative she was. But I was already planning my next move. This betrayal was too deep to ignore. That night I couldn't sleep. My mind kept circling around the messages, the lies she'd been feeding me. I felt stupid for not noticing sooner, for ignoring all the red flags. But mostly I felt this burning rage. Not just at her, but at myself for trusting her so blindly. Jamie had this way of making herself seem innocent, even when she was clearly hiding something. And Chris, our friend, he was supposed to be my buddy, and now I found out he'd been sneaking around with my wife behind my back. It was a punch to the gut. I knew I had to do something. I couldn't just sit still after finding out she'd been cheating on me, especially right before the wedding. That's when I got the idea to set a trap. I decided I'd follow her one evening, see if she'd actually meet up with Chris again. I wanted to catch her red-handed this time in the act. I didn't want to just accuse her based on texts. I needed absolute proof. But I also knew this could go south fast. She was bitchy, manipulative. She'd probably deny everything unless I had her caught in the act. The plan was simple enough. I told her I had to work late that night, but really I parked my car across the street from her apartment. I waited in silence, flashlight in hand, watching her come out around 8:30 p.m. She was dressed casual, but her face looked different, more confident, more daring. She met Chris outside, and I could see them exchanging quick kisses, her grabbing her purse and heading toward his place. I stayed hidden behind some bushes, heart pounding so hard I thought it would jump out of my chest. Watching them go into his apartment was like a punch every second. I felt this mixture of anger, disappointment, and that sick feeling of betrayal turning into something more dangerous. I was furious. Not just at her, but at myself for trusting her, for thinking I knew her at all. I kept telling myself that I'd finally get the truth when they came out again. I waited, drinks of water helping me hold back the nausea, until well past midnight. Finally, I saw Chris step outside alone. She wasn't there. I kept my distance, waiting for her to come out next. About 20 minutes later, she appeared dressed even sexier than before, obviously trying to look good for whatever was going on. I stayed out of sight, watching her head to her car. As she unlocked it, I stepped out from behind the bushes and called her name. The look on her face was priceless, shock, then defiance. She tried to play it cool, act like she'd been waiting for me, but I saw the guilty flutter in her eyes. I told her I knew everything. Her lips curled into a sneer and she started lying right away. Said she was just going to see a friend, that it was innocent, that I was reading too much into it. Tried to tell me I was insecure, jealous, but I didn't buy a word of it. I knew she'd been lying all along and I just caught her red-handed in the act. That's when the rage boiled over. I felt like I was going to explode. I told her I didn't want to hear her bullshit anymore, that I'd had enough of her lies and her games. She looked at me, that bitchy smirk on her face, and said, "You're overreacting. It's not what you think." But I knew better. I'd seen enough. I didn't even bother to argue. I just told her to go to hell and I walked away, feeling like I was carrying this heavy weight I could never shake off. That moment marked the beginning of something I couldn't undo, and I knew my life was about to change forever. The next couple of days were a blur. I was in shock, honestly. Seeing her with Chris, knowing what I now knew, that she'd been sneaking around, lying, cheating, felt like getting punched in the stomach repeatedly. I couldn't focus on anything other than the betrayal. Every time I looked at Jamie, I saw her differently. That confident, bitchy attitude she threw around like armor now just felt like a mask hiding the real, manipulative person underneath. I was furious, but I was also deeply hurt. It's one thing to be cheated on, but to discover she lied so blatantly, so casually, that cut deep. I wasn't going to let her off easy. I decided I needed to confront her again, face to face, and get some honest answers, though I didn't really expect honesty anymore. One afternoon, I called her and told her I wanted to meet. She acted like everything was fine, like she was surprised I wanted to talk, but I could see her nervousness. She kept trying to sugarcoat everything, saying she didn't mean for it to happen, and it was just a mistake, as if that somehow made it okay. Honestly, I wanted to scream at her. How can you call that a mistake when you've been lying and sneaking around for weeks? She kept crying and saying she was stressed, that she loved me, that she never wanted to hurt me, but I knew better. The way she looked at me, the way she lied so effortlessly, made it clear she'd already made a choice. She'd chosen Chris over me and she had no remorse. At one point, she even dared to call herself a bitch, trying to evoke sympathy, acting like she was the victim. That made me even angrier. She had no shame. The emotional toll was brutal. I felt betrayed, humiliated, angry, and honestly kind of lost. My trust was shattered. I kept replaying everything, the trips, the weekends away, the way she'd flirted with Chris in front of my face like it was nothing. I'd been so blind. And the worst part, I'd actually started to question myself. Was I not enough? Was I the problem? But deep down, I knew the truth was simple. She was the one who cheated, who lied, who didn't respect our relationship. All her talk about love and commitment was just bullshit. By the end of that conversation, I knew I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. I told her I needed some space, that I couldn't stay married to someone who lied that way. I told her I'd think about everything, about what I wanted, and that's when I realized I had to decide whether I was going to fight for this mess or walk away. Honestly, I was leaning toward walking away. I didn't want to stay with someone who had no respect for me or the vows we were about to make. I deserved better. Even if part of me still loved her, I couldn't ignore what I now knew for sure. She had been unfaithful, and I was not going to be the fool anymore. Over the next few days, everything felt like a slow descent into chaos. I was trying to keep my cool, trying to process what I'd discovered, but every time I closed my eyes, I saw her with Chris. The image burned into my brain, her lips on his, her hand reaching for his, the way she looked at him like he was the only thing that mattered. That bitchy smirk she always wore. It turned into a symbol of her betrayal. It was like I'd been played for a fool, and now I was left with this gnawing pain, this ache of betrayal that made me question everything about our relationship. I spent hours just walking around, not really knowing where to go or what to do. My mind kept circling the same thought. How do I get revenge on someone who's just spit on everything I believed in? How do I make her feel even a fraction of what I felt? I started to hatch a plan, something cold, calculated, and very deliberate. I wasn't going to let her get away with this. No, I wanted her to see what she'd lost, to feel the sting of her own betrayal in a way she'd never forget. The first step was to gather proof that she was still sneaking around. I decided I'd follow her again, just to make sure she hadn't stopped. That night, I parked across the street once more, my heart pounding with anticipation and anger. Sure enough, she slipped out of the apartment, dressed even more provocatively than before. She was heading to meet Chris again. I followed at a safe distance, all the while feeling like I was in some dark, twisted movie. Watching her walk into that place, knowing she'd betrayed me so openly, made my blood boil. But I didn't just want to catch her, no. I wanted to make her regret it. When she was inside, I hacked into her email account and phone. I wanted to find anything I could use, screenshots, messages, any proof that she was still lying. It was sickening, really. The way I was digging through her private stuff like some kind of silent predator. I found more messages between her and Chris, more explicit stuff, even plans for their next meetup. It was all there, clear as day. She thought she could hide everything from me, but I had her cornered now. When she finally came back home that night, I was waiting in the dark, feeling like I'd just stepped into my own personal hell. She looked surprised, guilty, like she knew she'd been caught again but didn't know what to say. I confronted her directly. I told her I knew everything, the texts, the meetings, her lies. I told her I had the proof. Her face turned pale, then she started spinning her usual bullshit. "It's not what it looks like," she said. "It's just sex, we're not serious, it doesn't mean anything." But I wasn't buying that shit anymore. To me, it wasn't just sex, it was the principle. She'd been unfaithful, cold, and calculated even right before our wedding day. That's when I really started to see her for what she was, a manipulative, selfish woman who only cared about herself. I told her she could lie all she wanted, but I'd already made up my mind. I was done. Done with her lies, done with the betrayal. I told her to pack her bags and leave because I wasn't going to let her destroy what was left of my dignity. That night, everything changed forever. The aftermath hit me harder than I expected. After she left, the apartment was eerily quiet, like the silence after a storm. I sat on the couch, staring at the empty space where she used to be, feeling numb but also oddly freed. For years, I'd been building this life with her, trusting her, believing in the future we planned. And now, it was all a sham. The woman I thought I knew was just a manipulative bitch who fucked around behind my back and lied to my face. That realization cut deep, but it also brought a strange sense of clarity. I finally saw her for what she truly was. I spent the next few days trying to piece myself back together. Every moment I wasn't working or trying to distract myself, I felt this gnawing emptiness. The betrayal left scars deep and raw, and I knew I couldn't just pretend everything was okay. I had to decide what to do next. Was I going to try and forgive her? Was there even a point? Honestly, I didn't want her back. I wanted her to feel the weight of what she did, to understand she'd destroyed something real. I also reached out to some friends for support. I needed to talk, to vent, to hear some honest advice. Most of them told me to cut ties, that she wasn't worth the pain. But part of me was still torn because, despite everything, I loved her. Or at least I loved the version of her I thought I knew. That love was shattered now, replaced with anger and betrayal. Still, I had to be honest with myself. I deserved better. Something inside me knew I'd never trust her again, not in a million years. In the days that followed, I started to think about revenge. Not the petty kind, but something that would make her realize what she lost, what she threw away. I wanted her to feel the full weight of her actions. I wasn't the kind of guy who would send her creepy messages or ruin her life, but I was determined to make her regret her choices, to leave a mark she couldn't erase. It was time for her to see that I wasn't a fool, that I wasn't someone to be messed with. So I began to quietly dismantle everything that tied her to my life. I canceled the wedding arrangements, started sorting through our shared things, and made sure there was nothing left that could remind her of all the plans we'd made. The day she left, I felt like I was finally taking control again, even if I was bleeding inside. I also contacted Chris, told him exactly what I thought of him, poor excuse for a friend, sneaking with my wife behind my back. That was the moment I realized my revenge wasn't about petty revenge anymore. It was about reclaiming my dignity, about showing her that she couldn't just lie and cheat without consequences. Honestly, I don't know what's next for me. Part of me still hopes I'll find someone who truly values me, who respects the vows I make. But right now, I just want to breathe again to heal from this mess. All I can say is, never ignore the signs. Trust your gut. And if someone cheats on you, don't let them get away with it. Make them see what they lost. That's the only way I think I'll start to move on. Looking back now, I realize this whole experience has changed me in ways I never expected. The betrayal cut deep, but it also forced me to confront my own limits, what I'll tolerate and what I won't. I used to think that love was enough to get through anything, but now I see that trust is the foundation of everything. Without it, you're just building on sand. Jamie's lies shattered that foundation, and honestly, I don't think I'll ever rebuild it with her. The thing is, I still feel angry, sometimes every day. But I also feel relieved in a strange way. For the first time in a long time, I took control of my life again. I didn't let her manipulate me anymore. I stopped trying to fix something that was already broken. And I decided to focus on myself. It wasn't easy. There were nights I cried myself to sleep, nights I wondered if I'd ever trust again. But gradually I started to find my footing. What I've learned from all of this: never ignore the signs. Don't dismiss your instincts, no matter how much you love someone. If you feel like something's off, investigate. Because sometimes the truth is uglier than you think, and the pain of ignorance is worse than facing reality. If someone cheats on you, don't wait for them to come clean. Take what's yours, your dignity, your self-respect, and walk away. Revenge isn't about petty payback. It's about reclaiming your peace of mind and showing them you're not a fool to be played. In the end, I've come to terms with the fact that I might be better off without her. I deserve someone who values me, who respects the vows we take. I don't hate her. I just know I'll never trust her again. And that's okay. Sometimes, losing someone is the only way to find yourself again. I hope my story serves as a warning to anyone who's in a similar situation. Don't ignore the red flags. Do. Let someone's lies destroy your sense of worth. Stand up, face the truth, and do what's right for yourself. Because in the end, that's all that really matters.